Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of For the Fans podcast. It's been a couple of weeks, but with everything going on in the world today, we had to postpone a lot more, and especially with it being off season, there wasn't much news, but we got something exciting coming up starting tomorrow. I think everybody right now is kind of seeing the NFL draft as just the perfect wonderland of the sports world right now, is that we're still getting a little bit of something. Yeah, and we got some interesting takes going on, some interesting stuff happening in the draft, but we do have a little bit of news going on around the NFL that has happened since this past uh, episode that we had. There's been a few more things added. Yeah, as some people would like to believe that everything's kind of blown over, there is still something going on. Another upcoming change is that the NFL, if everything happens as planned this season, which, I mean, if anything, we'll probably just start later than normal and maybe have a shortened season, but there will be 14 teams for the playoffs, but still 16 games. I think the 17 games comes in not this season, but the season after.
Maybe one of the NFC East teams, possibly even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's really interesting trying to as we start to try and do this little bit of prediction as far as what teams might now have a chance now that there is one extra slot in the playoffs.
Can you go ahead and repeat that? So it wasn't picking up your audio for that, so go ahead and just repeat what you said.
Oh come on! I even switched up microphones to avoid that, and
Yeah,
now we
yeah, no. I think it might have been something on my end, but it should be good now.
Well, anyway, as I was saying, we have you and I had spoken about a few teams that we thought, oh, they could probably try and make a squeeze into that last spot into with the last wild card spot, both in the AFC and the NFC. You and I have talked about the Miami Dolphins could. It'd be a long shot, but they could do it. We talked about the Steelers. We talked about possibly even the Patriots. We talked about the Raiders, and then on the NFC side, we talked about one of the NFC East teams, possibly the Vikings, maybe even the Bears. The biggest one I think we were talking about was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if they could just manage to squeeze themselves in there and give Tom Brady another shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. And the interesting thing about that is that Tom Brady now has an old weapon that he used to always go to in do or die situations in Rob Gronkowski. Gronkowski has been officially traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and has talked about coming out of retirement to play with them and with Brady again.
This is so weird. It almost feels like I'm staring. I'm looking back in time. Now Gronk is back and he's playing with Brady, but they're not playing for the Patriots.
I mean, I just gotta say one thing, and this is purely me and my speculation of everything. Sometimes it feels like the NFL is rigged. Brady, the moneymaker and face of the NFL for the past decade or so, finally leaves his home staple name with the New England Patriots, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and all of a sudden Gronk comes out of retirement and joins the Buccaneers. Like, I feel like everything was set up too perfectly to make the Buccaneers and to make the NFL a little bit more money.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to draw a crowd to Tampa Bay Stadium for
And
sure.
out of Gillette Stadium.
And out of Gillette Stadium, certainly.
I'm sorry, I had to say it because it's bound to happen.
Oh, yes, I mean, come on. You know, you've got these two icons that have been there for the Patriots for quite some time. You know, the only other names that we could throw out there that have been there for the Patriots have been big names for them is what, Randy Moss, maybe Drew Bledsoe,
maybe.
It's Tom Brady, it's Rob Gronkowski. I mean, they're two of the biggest players, and people have talked about Tom Brady being the greatest quarterback of all time. People have talked about Gronk being the greatest tight end of all time. It's going to draw in a lot of money. It's going to keep viewership up. I don't really think it's going to change how the NFC South is going to look as far as playoffs and rankings go. I'm still pulling for the New Orleans Saints.
Same.
But we'll have to see what happens because, I've been wrong before.
Yeah, but I mean, the NFC South is starting to look like it could be one of the toughest divisions going into the NFL this coming season. So we'll have to definitely keep a close eye on that one.
Now, one thing that can still determine that, though, is, of course, the draft and some of these new players who could really make a difference. I mean, if we look at the players from last draft that have really come into their own and have made a difference, you and I, we talked about some names from last draft that were kind of like, ooh, wow, those guys were really good. The Josh Jacobs, the Kyler Murrays. Obviously, the biggest one, I believe, was Nick Bosa. I mean, look what that guy was able to do with the 49ers.
Yeah. He was able to wreck shop among many offensive lines.
Definitely. So here we are with the 2020 NFL Draft. And night before the very first round of the draft, Shane and I have done our own little mock draft predictions for the 2020 draft. I can't remember if we mentioned this earlier, but this is going to be a shortened episode. It's just going to be a special on the draft. We will not have a For the Fun segment or anything like that. We'll just be talking about the draft, and we will be sharing our predictions for the first round. So Shane and I have those drafted up. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we won't. So that's going to be the fun part, is us talking about that. Also, Shane, we did not indicate any predictions that we had as far as trading up or trading for players of for draft picks.
I threw in one for mine.
Did you? Okay.
Yes, there is a trade in my draft. And I do think that there are possible drafts, and I'll make note of when I think that possible draft could occur.
Yes, okay. And if you do that, that would be great, because then we can kind of define, at least we get an idea of, how we're thinking how this is going to go. And then next week, we will come back with the results from the draft, and we will discuss that there.
All right. So with that, let's go ahead and roll on into our draft. Man, I am stoked about this. So, number 1 overall pick, we have the Bengals on the clock. McKay, who do you have the Bengals taking?
It's quite obvious. I have them taking Joe Burrow, the quarterback from LSU.
Here's the thing. I agree with you on that. But I do think that there is a possible trade here. It's very unlikely, but I think it's possible. The Bengals might trade back to, let's say, like the Miami Dolphins. Stockpile on a couple of more picks and grab another strong quarterback, maybe like Justin Herbert or something.
It's unlikely.
It's unlikely, but
yeah.
It has been done. We've seen crazier things happen on draft day.
We certainly have. And if the Miami Dolphins want Joe Burrow that bad, they'll go for him. The reason that I don't think they will is just because I feel like they don't want to like sacrifice other picks or like move up or anything like that because there are other quarterbacks that are of some value that they could get there. Do you get where I'm going
Oh
with
yeah,
that?
I get it.
Is definitely the best quarterback in the draft. I mean, he's the Heisman winner. Now,
Now,
the
back that up a minute. How have Heisman winners worked out in the past for teams?
hey, I know you're going somewhere with like Johnny Manziel and players like that, but keep in mind players too like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely it has its good and its bad. Either I feel like Heisman Trophy winners either flourish in the NFL or they are gone in a year and never heard from again.
Yes. And I think it's usually the first year where we kind of get that feel for it, right? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um, Now, you were talking about, where was I going with this? I think you made me lose my train of thought when I said the Heisman winner. Oh, here's the one thing that I do have a problem with, though, Shane. I get that Joe Burrow is trying to show, like, how cocky he is and everything like that, and it's kind of cool how it's like, oh, Joe Burrow's returning to Ohio because, he used to be the backup quarterback for Ohio State and everything. Um, but Joe Burrow didn't even participate in the combine. He is so confident in his abilities and that he's going to be the first round pick that he doesn't even really want to try and show his stuff. Does that worry you a little bit?
You know, I don't think it is, but it could also be, I think, what he has going for him is that some people excel at a combine. Others end up being better on the field than at combine. And I think for him, he's going to let all the hype for him do all of his promoting. He doesn't need to go to combine to promote himself because everyone else is already hyping him up.
I'll agree with that. I just hope that he is able to walk the walk while he talks the talk. Because if he doesn't, that's going to be quite the embarrassment for him and for the Bengals organization.
If the Bengals pick him. If.
If the Bengals pick him, yeah.
But let's move on from the number 1 overall pick to our number 2 overall pick, which I have the Redskins taking Chase Young. I feel like it's pretty obvious choice there for them to help bolster up their defensive issues.
Chase Young did a really good job playing for Ohio State on their defensive line. I know Chase Young really wants to make the statement that he's actually the best player in the draft. The only answer I have to that, Shane, is Chase, if you really are that much better than Burrow at your position, prove it, because Washington has been in the toilet for years now.
I mean,
their defense was awful last year. They have no fans. They're awful.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Dan Snyder's a joke.
But what the only thing I'm gonna say is that Chase Young will need to have a Nick Bosa season, kind of like how with the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray. I feel like Kyler Murray kind of fell through the cracks while Nick Bosa absolutely flourished. 2 different positions, but Nick Bosa kind of proved he should have been the number 1 overall pick.
But keep in mind too that Bosa played on a team that had talent around him.
It's true.
Whereas Kyler Murray didn't.
He had Fitzgerald.
Yeah. Well, and now he has DeAndre Hopkins too, so we might see a little bit more from Murray this year. Hard to say.
I will say, if he has time in the pocket and he is failing to deliver to both Fitzgerald and Hopkins, he might be a bust after that point.
Yeah, but hey, and you and I have talked about this. I think we literally talked about this. I think it was yesterday about, we're like, oh, great. Yeah, you have a great rookie season. Well, your sophomore season, the sophomore slump is real. Look at Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chase Young at the number 2 for the Washington Redskins.
All right. Let's move on to the number 3 pick. You go ahead and give your prediction.
So I could possibly. So my prediction is Jeff Okudah, the cornerback from Ohio State, because the Lions defense does need help. However, I will mention that I could also see the Lions either trading Matt Stafford or trying to get a new quarterback in some way by trading Stafford and moving up in picks or selecting a quarterback. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the interesting thing that you say about that, and I was going to address this later on, but it fits here as well. there has been talk, because I say Jeffrey Okuda as well, because that man's going to be a dominant, immediate player for that team. But the interesting thing I've seen lately in the latest talk is that the Miami Dolphins are apparently looking to trade up to the number 3 pick from number 5 to try to grab an offensive lineman. I don't think it's the smartest thing to do, but they're trying to pull some strings and trying to shop around the fact that, hey, we're open to trading number 5 to move up even 2 spots to grab the person that we want.
And the Dolphins do have 3 picks in the first round.
So they will not be hurting, so they can definitely shop those around a little bit. But I say Jeffrey Okuda as well. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player and a great addition to the Lions.
I think Jeff Okuda could have a chance at becoming Defensive Rookie of the Year.
I think it's possible. It might be between him and Chase Young, honestly.
Isaiah Simmons, I'd throw him in there,
Oh,
too.
Oh, yeah. I'm not forgetting Simmons.
All right. Well, I guess that kind of covers it for pick number 3, unless any changes happen there. Pick number 4 is where it gets a little interesting for you and I, Shane, right?
Yep.
Well, and that's because the Giants pick next, and the consensus that we have here, Shane, is that the Giants need an offensive lineman in order to give protection for Daniel Jones. I mean, that dude got sacked like no other last season.
Yeah, and when he wasn't getting hit, he showed that he had strong potential.
He does. It's just he just had zero help. Kind of like Kyler Murray. The difference was Murray still shined, whereas Jones didn't. So with that in mind, Shane, you and I both agreed it's an offensive lineman who's going to be picked, but the question is which lineman? I decided it was going to be Jedrick Willis, the offensive lineman from Alabama. But Shane, you had someone else in mind.
I had Tristan Wirfs, the offensive lineman from Iowa, who had a phenomenal and I think the best draft out of all linemen. And going back to what I said about the Dolphins trying to trade up to get a lineman, I think this is why they are trying to trade up, to grab Tristan Wirfs at the number 3 instead of letting him fall to the New York Giants.
I think that's a fair case to make. Like if they really wanted Wirfs, the only reason why I'm saying that's maybe not the best idea is just because Wirfs is not the only good offensive lineman that can go in the first round draft. And with a pick as early as number 5, I mean, yes, okay, sure. Wirfs goes off the board possibly, but then you still have Willis and you still have Mekhi Becton, who we'll talk about later. So
oh yeah, I agree with you, but we gotta remember.
I know you did.
We gotta remember. Sometimes the GM does not make the smart decision. Sometimes we see a pick that probably could have been saved up until the 2nd or 3rd round get picked in the 1st round. For one example, my Jaguars, when they drafted Taven Bryan like number 8 overall or something like that, everyone was mocking him to go to like 2nd or 3rd round. They grabbed him like 8 overall, and everyone's like, what the heck are you doing?
Or maybe having a quarterback named Mitchell Trubisky get drafted over Mahomes and Watson.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that one up because that's just a deep scar for everybody. Because Mahomes went 10. Mahomes went like number 10, so I mean everybody passed up on that.
Yeah. Anyway, so it will be an offensive lineman. We can agree on that. We just don't know which one.
Yep. So let's move on to pick number 5.
Dolphins. You go first.
So I think we both are in agreement, unless you disagree with me. But I have Justin Herbert, the quarterback out of Oregon, going to the Dolphins. I think they're going to pass on Tua.
I agree with you. I think Tua is damaged goods. I know that Tua's like, no, I'm healthy. I'm good. I'm ready to go. I don't think the Dolphins are buying it. I could be wrong, but I feel like in this case, just because there is a risk factor with Tua's injury, excuse me, that they are going to go with Herbert instead because he is the number 2 choice in that case after Joe Burrow.
And I think what could potentially hurt Tua's draft stock is due to the virus, how most players are not able to go out and prove themselves right now. They are kind of limited in what they can and can't do, who they can and can't meet with, and kind of just limited overall. And I think that's going to hurt Tua's draft stock a little bit more.
I think it will, just because you're right. The Dolphins can't personally go out there and evaluate him. At least we were able to see Herbert in the combine.
Yep. But we're in agreement on that. So let's move on to pick number 6.
So the Chargers would be up next on the board. And Anthony Lynn has said that he is sold on Tyrod Taylor. Great for him. I don't know. If Taylor's going to really be the guy, then I guess Taylor's really going to be the guy. I guess the Chargers don't need to go with a quarterback. So what to go for next? In my opinion, you pick defense. And I said that Isaiah Simmons should go next, the linebacker from Clemson.
That's a really good pick, only because Simmons, I think, is going to be a legitimate threat and an amazing addition to any team that he comes to. But I have the Chargers taking Tua. I think Tua can thrive with the Chargers if he gets healthy and remains healthy.
I think the only thing that would change that, yes, I mentioned earlier that Anthony Lynn is sold on Tyrod Taylor. I think the only thing that would change that, of course, is if, Anthony Lynn's not the guy in charge of doing the draft, so it's up to the GM. So if he really thinks, Tyrod Taylor's not our guy, then, and say, for example, Herbert does go off, or if in this case the Dolphins do pick Tua, Herbert's still around, maybe they will take him. I think those 3 quarterbacks, well, sorry, I should just say those 2, Tua and Justin Herbert. It's going to be really interesting seeing where those 2 end up.
Yeah, definitely. I don't have anything else to add for the Chargers. Do you have anyone or anything?
I will say, I know you kind of already mentioned this, but Isaiah Simmons, I understand that, even if the Chargers do have him and he's going to be a great difference maker, it's really not going to change all that much. Yeah, it might give the Saints a little bit of a problem, but it's great. Isaiah Simmons, he can be a linebacker or he could play in the secondary. That's how talented he is. But let's also keep in mind that we don't necessarily have high expectations for the Los Angeles Chargers this year. It's more just a thing of, okay, let's grab 1 pick and then let's start stocking up those picks and hopefully they'll be able to turn things around in the next little while. I don't see the Chargers really going anywhere after this draft as far as going into the playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think the Chargers are in a little bit of a slight rebuild, especially shipping off Phillip Rivers, their longtime quarterback of 15-plus years or something like that, 17, I think. But with him gone, it feels a lot like the Chargers are just kind of lost right now, so right now they're just trying to rebuild and refine their way.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, yeah, at that point now we can move on to the Panthers.
Yep, Panthers are on the clock with pick number 7. And this is where I have Isaiah Simmons falling to, is right here with the Carolina Panthers to help replace that Kuechly that they loved so long.
Definitely. I thought along the same wavelength as you did, but because I already had Simmons off the board, I said Derek Brown from Auburn would be their guy.
Yeah, I mean, he would definitely provide a strong defensive wall up at that front line for them. I do also think, and I want to know your thoughts of this, I also feel like this could be a potential spot that the Panthers might try to trade back a couple of slots just to see what else they can get.
And that I would also not say, I wouldn't say that's out of the question, because it seems like the Panthers, they figured out things on offense, though. At least this is how I see it. And they might be more focused on defense. And so that's why I feel like they wouldn't change that. You know what I'm saying? That they would just stick with going with Derek Brown at number 7. Unless, of course, they wanted to really go for Isaiah Simmons, and so they went up earlier.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, unless they are really wanting Simmons, they can try to trade up just to make sure that they grab him.
But at the same time, Derek Brown is not,
He's not a pushover.
Certainly not.
All right. Let's move on to pick number 8, which belongs to the Arizona Cardinals.
So for the Cardinals, just because I know you mentioned Tristan Wirfs earlier, being picked by the Giants, I have him being taken by the Cardinals, specifically to be that offensive line protection for Kyler Murray.
And see, you mentioned Jedrick Willis earlier, and I have him coming in to protect Kyler Murray.
Well, hey, And here's the thing: is it could go that way. Willis could go first, or Wirfs could go first. I think it's going to come down to those two for sure.
Oh yeah, I think those two might possibly be the best, followed by Mekhi Beton.
Yeah, definitely. Which we're going to be talking about him likely in a second.
Yeah, but I think the important thing to take away from this section is that the Cardinals are going to be looking for someone to protect their quarterback.
Give Kyler Murray time, he can deliver. And when he has weapons down the field, like DeAndre Hopkins or even a getting up there in age Larry Fitzgerald, it's going to make a difference.
Yep, he just needs that little bit of extra time, but I think with that little bit of extra time, he will be able to come out and just shine like everybody wants him to.
Definitely.
All right, pick number 9, belonging to the Jacksonville Jaguars. McKay, who do you have them taking at number 9?
Your Jacksonville Jaguars. You and I have talked about this before, and I know it's kind of a tough subject for you.
It is.
The Saxonville defense has fallen apart. So many of your key players are gone now.
I think all of them are.
Yeah. You need to go into a bit of a rebuild as far as the defense goes. And I think the first thing that needs to be addressed is, of course, you lost Jalen Ramsey to the Los Angeles Rams. Let's put in another good cornerback there. That's why I have C.J. Henderson from Florida being taken by the Jaguars at pick number 9.
And see, I agree with you. Like, my team definitely has a lot of needs, but it's not just on defense. It is all over the place. And I think one of the biggest things that they need right now is another receiver to pair with Chark that will be a phenomenal receiver for them. So I have them snagging Jerry Jeudy from Alabama to pair with DJ Chark. If Minshew pans out, great. Minshew has 2 legitimate weapons. If he doesn't pan out, who knows? The tanking for Trevor. Gosh, I know you want to use that so bad. The tanking for Trevor could potentially happen for the Jaguars, and they could grab him in next year's draft, and he'll come in with 2 strong, legitimate weapons already.
Yeah, and that's really when you have someone like Trevor Lawrence, who now don't get me wrong, Joe Burrow is a really talented player, but I still feel like Trevor Lawrence might slightly be better, in my opinion, as far as the 2 quarterbacks go. And when you put Trevor Lawrence in a position where he has 2 solid receivers, oh yeah, he can get the job done.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's going to come down to is, do the Jaguars want to take something that's going to be an immediate... I mean, either way, either pitch should hopefully be an immediate. Or are they going to look for something that could be potentially long-term in case something doesn't pan out the way they want it to?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's move on to pick number 10, which I believe belongs to the Cleveland Browns.
Who do you have?
I have Mekhi Beton, the offensive lineman out of Louisville.
Which I do as well, because really, Baker Mayfield, if he doesn't have time, he's just going to keep throwing interceptions. And so if you give him a little bit of protection there so he doesn't get sacked and he has a little more time to think and read the defense, he can probably do pretty well. And Becton is a very, very capable offensive lineman.
Yeah, and honestly, if that doesn't work out, meaning like if the line is good, the receivers are good, like everything it feels like all the pieces are there for the Cleveland Browns, but something just isn't clicking right. If it doesn't click right this year, it might be time to move on from Mayfield and maybe even try to grab Trevor Lawrence early.
Possibly. I personally believe that the missing piece was the coach. Now with Freddie Kitchens gone and Kevin Stefanski in there, as you know, I felt like he did a good job as the offensive coordinator for the Vikings. With him in there, we could see something change in Cleveland. I'm not hedging on my bets on that. I'm not saying, oh yeah, Cleveland's going to the playoffs this year. Definitely not, because how many times have we been wrong about that? But
a lot.
But I think there is a solid possibility. But as you mentioned, Baker Mayfield needs that protection. Could do a lot better. Has Becton in there to defend him. If things don't come together at that point, then yeah, the Browns are just cursed. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns will be Browns. They went like 15, 20 years grabbing a QB and having a new starting QB every single season. Something like that.
Gotten rid of a lot of coaches and general managers too.
Yep. But anyways, let's move on from the Browns, and let's move on to pick number 11 with the Jets on the clock. Who do you have the Jets taking right here?
Have another offensive lineman being taken, and I have Andrew Thomas going there, the offensive lineman from Georgia. I understand that what is it? His name's like George Fant or something like that. I understand that the Jets just signed him, but I feel like he's not all that promising, and so you still need more younger, fresher help there to protect Sam Darnold, so that essentially he's in the same boat as Baker Mayfield, where if he gets some time and he can make reads, he can be a decent quarterback. But if he doesn't have that, then, well, he's toast. He's seeing ghosts.
Yep, that's exactly what I said. I said Andrew Thomas is going to come in, and he's going to help Sam Darnold not get hit so hard, so he starts seeing ghosts again. I think he's going to be Sam Darnold's personal little Ghostbuster to keep all of those away from him.
Like that, his personal little Ghostbuster.
I'm sorry, it's just that comment was the worst thing that could have happened to his career.
Yeah, well, that and getting mono.
Yeah. Man, he had a lot of stuff happen to him.
He did not have a good sophomore season.
No. Nope. But let's move on to pick number 12 with the Oakland Raiders.
So, we've had a bit of a debate as far as who is the best receiver in the draft. It seems between you and I, Shane, we usually come down to CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy.
Yep, I'll agree with that.
And you've already had Jerry Jeudy go earlier in the draft. You had him go to your Jaguars.
Yep.
I haven't had him go yet, but I personally believe that CeeDee Lamb is the better wide receiver. So I have him he's from Oklahoma. I say he's the toughest receiver, and he's going to do really well in a tough place with that tough new Las Vegas Raiders team.
Yeah, I said Oakland. I was like, oh, they're the Vegas. I'm not used to it yet.
No, I almost said Oakland. I was like, oh, you heard me. You heard me.
Yeah.
Here,
here's the reason I said Oakland. I literally have right on my spreadsheet. It says Oklahoma Raiders. I saw O and Raiders.
That does not help.
Yeah, so I have CeeDee Lamb also going there, and I am with you. I'm still torn on who is the better receiver between Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. I just personally think that the Jaguars might choose Jeudy over Lamb mainly because of where he went to school. Mainly.
There's certainly a possibility.
Because I mean, Alabama, they've got a reputation, and yeah, I feel like the Jaguars front office doesn't always think things through. So I see CeeDee Lamb falling down here to give the Vegas Raiders a better wideout.
Which, I mean, I think as far as the Vegas Raiders go, I think that CeeDee Lamb can do very well in that position. Because Gruden, I feel like John Gruden is a very good coach. The downside to that is depending on who the quarterback is.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, right now, Derek Carr is still up there, and he can be good, but he's also shown flashes where he is one of the worst.
And the problem is, too, is if Derek Carr, if they do decide to bench him, I don't like who their backup is. I don't like the idea of Marcus Mariota stepping into that.
Oh, gosh. It's just a dumpster fire right there. I feel bad for the Vegas Raiders there. All the people in Vegas are hoping to have this really awesome, legitimate team, and then they're coming in kind of damaged goods.
Yeah. Maybe CeeDee Lamb will help with that.
Maybe CeeDee Lamb will be that little flash in the pan. But let's move on.
And Josh Jacobs.
Oh, yep, they got Josh Jacobs. Forgot about him. Oof. Man, that boy's good. Anyways, pick number 13 is with the 49ers on the clock. Who do you have them taking?
I have them taking Jerry Jeudy because they need a replacement for Emmanuel Sanders.
Okay. And I have this completes my trifecta, probably the top 3 wide receivers with Henry Ruggs coming in as a speedy demon that the 49ers would like.
I would say those are definitely Lamb, Jeudy, and Ruggs are the top 3 receivers in the draft, which I don't there's not really any debate on that.
Yeah, So I think we both see that the 49ers are going to take a receiver here to replace what they lost.
Yeah. I would also be willing, I would also suspect the 49ers of wanting to trade this pick to get some either other picks or to get a certain player because let's be honest, I don't know. I mean, it is interesting how they traded DeForest Buckner to get this pick, but I feel like they wouldn't mind shopping it around to try and get something else.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I mean, they have mentioned that they would be willing to shop that around.
Yeah, I mean, draft day for me is always insane because you never know who's going to do what.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, pick number 14 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who do you have going here?
Offensive lineman to protect Tom Brady. I have Josh Jones going to the Buccaneers from Houston.
I have the same thing for the exact same reason.
Tom Brady is old and he don't run.
He don't run. We have seen that many times, and let me put it to you like this. As long as we have seen Brady with the Patriots, he has always had a stellar line to protect him from every single thing. And I feel like he gets more time in the pocket than any other quarterback. If he does not have that time in Tampa Bay, I feel like Tampa Bay is just going to have wasted everything they had poured into to get Tom Brady.
Including getting Gronk.
Oh, yeah, Gronk's going to feel kind of useless after a point. But anyways, we're both in agreement on that, so what do you say we move on to number 15?
Number 15, the Broncos would be on the clock. Just because I have not thrown him out there yet on my thing, I have Henry Ruggs, wide receiver from Alabama, who you mentioned being taken by the 49ers. I have him being taken by the Broncos as another weapon for Drew Lock.
See, I do have Drew Lock taking a weapon, but with Ruggs, Lamb, and Judy all gone already, I have them taking Justin Jefferson out of LSU.
And see, he's really good too, so that would not surprise me.
I feel like this is a strong wide receiver class, so some teams looking to stock up on their receivers might get away with a couple of steals here.
Sure. It's going to be a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Let's just
the sophomore quarterback needs another threat to throw the ball to. All right.
Definitely.
Let's go to pick number 16.
Falcons on the board. So I think the biggest thing that the Falcons needed to work on at the beginning of last offseason was defense. They did not address that last season, and look how it went for them. Looks like they're kind of pulling it together this year. They got Dante Fowler Jr., but I have them selecting Javon Kinlaw from South Carolina to be on their defensive line.
Okay. Now, here's where my mock draft starts to get a little bit more fun. I have a trade right here.
All right.
I'm having the Atlanta Falcons trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars, so pick number 20 for pick number 16. Falcons are also going to get disgruntled but proven awesome veteran Yannick Ngakoue. So they not only bolster their defensive line and get a strong, solid, proven edge rusher, they fall back a mere 4 picks, and the Jaguars are going to take C.J. Henderson to fill up that Ramsey and Boye slot that you had them picking at number 9. I think he's going to fall just far enough for them to grab.
Hey, I will be honest with you. I can see the change going around where Yannick Ngakoue does go to the Falcons. What the C.J. Henderson falling that far, that gets a little harder for me to see, but I've been wrong before. I mean, everyone thought Dwayne Haskins was going to go in the top 10 last draft, and he didn't. Not like it was a huge loss or anything, but
everybody thought Josh Allen was going to go to number 2 or 3. He fell all the way to number 7.
Their point taken. Point taken.
So, and the reason I'm doing this, if you look at my mock draft, every pick from 10 to 16 is all offensive base. It's either a wide receiver or an offensive lineman to protect their new or older quarterback.
That's very true.
And with the Falcons needing that extra boost in defensive power, I think having a proven veteran will be able to come in and you gotta remember, Dante Fowler Jr. and Yannick Ngakoue were both with the Jaguars when they were Satsonville, so that'd be pairing two old teammates back together again.
Oof, I could really start. I'm starting to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that happening.
I would say, like, if the Falcons are looking to bolster up their defense, out of all the trades that I could possibly think of where I feel like it works out for both teams fairly well, I feel like this one has one of the higher potentials for everyone to kind of walk away happy. Yan gets to leave Jacksonville and gets to get paid in Atlanta. Atlanta gets to bolster up their defense. Jaguars get to fill in the holes left by Boye and Ramsey.
Right. Yeah. That that one actually makes me really excited to see if that will happen on draft day tomorrow.
Yeah, like I really want to be in the Jaguars front office, be like, if you do not try to make this work, I will punch you in the head right now.
Yeah.
For me, it's something that makes sense, and that's what makes me sad. Is that it makes so much sense that it probably won't happen. Like, if you think about it, when you first hear it, like, you were in shock. You're like, oh, I don't see that happening. But once you hear the logic behind it, you're like, oh, okay, that actually makes a ton of sense. I can totally see that happening.
Pretty much.
But that's like the biggest trade that I have in my mock draft. With that, so let's move on to number 17.
Okay, so for pick number 17, that would be the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh boy.
I have them taking K'Lavon Chaisson. I think that's how you say his name. He's an edge from LSU. I say that the reason that they need an edge is I think they also just need an explosive pass rusher after losing Robert Quinn. Now, I understand that Robert Quinn is not, he's not as good as he used to be, but he had a really good season with the Cowboys, and now he plays for the Bears. And so they need to fix that, and they need to fill in his hole, and I feel like they could definitely make use of that in the draft with that defensive player in Chaisson.
I have the exact same thing. I have Chaisson going to the Cowboys as well to bolster up that defense. That I feel like the Cowboys are starting to get a little bit of their offensive pieces together, but they are horribly lacking in the defensive department.
I wouldn't say horribly.
Not horribly, but it could be better.
It could be better, and it'll be really interesting to see how well the Cowboys do this next regular season, because in the past, when the Cowboys were doing really badly, who did everyone know who to blame? They knew to blame Jason Garrett. Well, they can't do that anymore. So now, if it's still going downhill and the Cowboys still can't get it together, then we can really point it out and say, okay, no, it's this player, it's this player, it's this player. It wasn't just Jason Garrett. I'm interested to see that. Clap. Yeah, good old Clappy. Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on because I'm already tired of talking about the Cowboys. This is exhausting work. Let's move on to pick number 18, again with the Dolphins on the board.
I have them taking another safety to pair with Byron Jones. I have them taking Xavier McKinney from Alabama. I think that would give a really good, strong secondary to have just in the back, which I feel like is going to be really useful in the AFC East, just because Jarrett Stidham or whoever the Patriots might take will be unproven, could throw picks easily. Josh Allen, I don't know, I feel like he throws picks a lot, and Sam Darnold definitely throws picks. Think how many defensive touchdowns the Dolphins could get with two really good safeties. That's just my vision.
The Dolphins could win the AFC East solely because of their defense getting more points than their offense.
That's how the Bears won last year.
Anyways, I have them doing the exact same thing, taking Xavier McKinney as a safety, but also look for a possible trade, meaning that they could either they'll either trade away this pick to kind of move up in the draft a little bit to where they might want, or they might try to fall back and try to stockpile a little bit more. But I think taking Xavier McKinney is going to be the safest bet for them.
I think so as well.
All right. Let's move on to pick number 19, owned by the Raiders again.
I have them taking A.J. Terrell, the cornerback from Clemson. The reason that I think they need to take a cornerback like him, because like we mentioned, we're pretty sure that C.J. Henderson is going to be gone by now, whether it was by the Jaguars earlier or later. So the next best option, and there was Jeffrey Okudah too. Sorry, I forgot about him. But he was gone.
He was gone real early.
So that leaves A.J. Terrell, who, in my opinion, that's who the Raiders need because they lost that deal with Eli Apple. So now they need a good cornerback to fill that hole. There you have it right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I got AJ Terrell coming in as well. I think it's just the obvious choice for them and honestly going to be the best thing overall for the Raiders to look to the future and try to win a few more games.
Definitely. For sure. I think if that's the case, let's move on to the Eagles pick at number 20.
You mean the Jaguars?
Sorry, that is the Jaguars. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm thinking backwards. Wait a second. No. Eagles are next one. My bad.
No, they're not. Jaguars are number 20.
Yeah, the Jaguars are number 20. I'm thinking backwards here. Yes, the Jaguars are up next.
I was like, I know when my team's drafting. All right. Who do you got at number 20 for the Jaguars to take?
This one honestly hurts me.
Oh, I don't like to hear that.
And here's the reason why. So the reason that it hurts me is because personally I would love to have this player on the Bears, but the Bears don't have a first round pick.
Which I feel bad
so
for.
I have the Jaguars taking Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver from Arizona State. Now, many people, because I mentioned it before, I know the reason that I would love for Ayuk to be on the Bears is because I'm an ASU fan. So it'd be great to see him go from my favorite college to my favorite NFL team. But that's probably not going to happen because Ayuk is still a really good receiver. And you and I are basically doing this flip-flopping thing where I said the Jaguars take the cornerback first. You said they take the wide receiver first. Well, now you say they take the wide receiver next. Or, sorry, I say you take the wow. Ooh, my mind got bugged up there. You said they would take the cornerback next. I said they would take the wide receiver, and they would take Brandon Ayuk.
And see here, okay, I if you say he's good, I'm trusting you, and I would be okay with it. But with my draft, because I had the Jaguars trade, this is the Falcons on the clock for me. And you were questioning on why I would say why would they take Yannick Ngakoue and trade back about 4 slots. The reason why is because they're going to grab a linebacker in Patrick Queen out of LSU.
Right.
They're going to keep stacking up that defense and plug just as many holes as they can on that defense. And I feel like they have a solid offense. They just need their defense to come up. And I think filling in, having these 2 edge rushers to pressure the quarterback, who should hopefully be able to stop the run, and then just having that linebacker to be in the middle to catch anything and be able to push the run or even be able to defend on the pass a little bit, I think it's going to benefit them a lot.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's the whole reason I had this giant trade muckery go around. But that's it for me at number 20.
Oh, moving on to number 21. Now it's the Eagles.
You're going to hate me for this one. I have Brandon Ayuk coming into the Eagles to get them a good wide receiver that I feel like they're starting to hurt for a little bit.
And see, I say they need a wide receiver as well. I just said that they would take Justin Jefferson from LSU instead.
Yep, see, I haven't gone a lot earlier, so that's why he's no longer on the block. The next best up is Brandon Ayuk.
For sure.
All right, so we both agree. Eagles need to get some more weapons on the offense, so let's move on to number 22.
So this would be the Vikings. I also think that the Vikings need another receiver because they lost Stephon Diggs. So I say the next receiver, next best one, is Denzel Mims from Baylor.
I said the exact same thing. The Vikings definitely need to replace the threat that they had in Stephon Diggs.
Definitely. That's pretty much case closed there. That's what the Vikings are looking for.
All right. Let's move on to pick number 23 with the New England Patriots on the clock.
So the Pats lost a lot of defensive players, whether it was, the big one that I'm thinking of is Kyle Van Noy. So they need to fill that in, and I say they fill that in with Zach Bond from Wisconsin.
All right. I have them taking Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, out because I honestly feel like the Patriots are going to be desperately trying to find that next face for the Patriots franchise, and they may find it in Jalen Hurts.
That's an interesting one. I hadn't considered Jalen Hurts being an option there. But
Yeah. I mean, the way I'm seeing it is because I feel like the second the Patriots have a bad season this season, they're going to lose the whatever's left of their fan base from the Tom Brady trade. They need to have somebody come in and kind of take the reins and have that unceremoniously, because he's no longer there, passing of the torch from Brady to Hurts.
See, I almost have the feeling that they could take a linebacker like Bond and then go and get Hurts in the next round.
It's possible, but I think it'd be a little too risky, and I feel like Belichick likes to pull some rabbits out of his hat, and they do have probably the most picks, but they're mostly in the later rounds, so I feel like he's going to use one of his earlier picks to grab the next potential face.
Yeah, I could see that too.
But it's Bill Belichick and whatever they plan on doing up there, and they like to show that they will win no matter what.
It's true.
And the main reason I have the quarterback going there is because I think they're going to use those layer picks for the defense.
Yeah, which could also happen too. Yeah, I don't know. Hard to say with the Patriots.
Yeah, I don't know what goes on in the Patriots' mind. They seem to plan for everything.
Yeah, it's true.
But let's move on to pick number 24 with the New Orleans Saints coming in.
So I think their biggest need is going to be at linebacker. So I have Kenneth Murray, who is from Oklahoma, to fill that spot.
I have the same feelings that they may just need to fill in the linebacker, and I think it'll hopefully complete this team, allow them to get to the Super Bowl, and I think Kenneth Murray is going to do the job for them.
Okay, case closed there.
All right, pick number 25 with the Minnesota Vikings back on the clock.
Gonna need some help a little bit on the defense. I have Christian Fulton, the cornerback from LSU.
Okay, I agree with defense. I agree with cornerback, but I'm saying Jeff Gladney coming in.
Okay, another cornerback, just a different one.
Just a different one.
I mean, hey, we both agree that that's what the Vikings are going to be looking for. It just depends on which player they want to take. Do they want to take the one that, I guess, came from the championship winning team, or someone who came from just another college?
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have to see. It could be an interesting take, but maybe they see something in one over the other.
Definitely.
All right, pick number 26. The third and final pick in the first round for the Miami Dolphins.
I have an offensive lineman going this time. I have Ezra Cleveland from Boise State.
I had the same thing as well. I think that they need to protect their future quarterback, whoever it may be.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
I don't think the Dolphins are... I feel like if the Dolphins bomb this draft, they're just going to be in trouble for the next couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be the new Cleveland Browns.
Ooh, yeah, that doesn't sound good at all.
Sorry, any Dolphins fans.
Whew. Okay, moving on from that trash pile. Yeah, wow. So we got the Seahawks, right?
Yes, we have the Seahawks coming in at number 27.
And I have Marlon Davidson from Auburn.
I have Joshua Jones, the offensive tackle from Houston, coming in to protect Wilson.
Okay.
I mean,
wait, Wilson... Joshua Jones from Houston?
Yeah.
Dude, you picked him to be for the Buccaneers to protect Tom Brady. Look back at your thing.
No, I didn't. Did I?
Is there a Josh Jones and a Josh Jones, both from Houston, who are offensive linemen?
I might have screwed that up.
Ooh. I was like, wait a second.
Wait a second. I knew I screwed something up. Oh boy. You gotta understand, people. I was doing this at work today. While like everything was slow, I did like when I was on break, and I'm like, my brain hurts. I see the Seattle Seahawks grabbing someone to protect Russell Wilson.
Gotcha.
Thank you for catching that for me.
Yeah, and we'll have to try and fill that in with some offensive linemen.
Some offensive lineman somewhere.
Maybe Ezra Cleveland. Oh no, you already picked. Yeah, you already had him in the
Yep.
Dolphins. You did. Pick him.
I had
yeah.
a lot of offensive linemen go.
All right. Yep. All right. Well, we'll have to come back to that one.
I will find another. Anyways, let's move on from that train wreck of a mess that I just did. All right, so we got pick number 28 coming up.
I have Patrick Queen, linebacker from LSU. I know you mentioned him earlier. I have him at number 28.
I have Terrell Lewis, the edge out of Alabama, to help out the Ravens with their run blocking. And because, Baltimore really, really loves their Alabama players.
It's true.
Okay.
The reason I had Patrick Queen, I don't know, I just felt like he was a good replacement for Josh Bynes that will help just solidify, just that cover there.
Okay. I do have my correct pick for the number 27 with the Seahawks. It is an offensive lineman. It's Austin Jackson.
Okay.
The J last names confuse me, which is why.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, yeah, so I have the Ravens taking an edge to help bolster their run defense, and honestly, the Ravens are scaring me enough as it is.
Yep, same.
Oh, glad I'm not in that division.
No kidding.
Anyways, let's move on to pick number 29 with the Tennessee Titans.
You had mentioned that you would take Jeff Gladney would be taken earlier as a cornerback, but for the Vikings. Well, I had Christian Fulton in that spot, so now I have Jeff Gladney as the cornerback from TCU for the Titans.
See, I have Christian Fulton coming in for the Tennessee Titans.
Switched him around again. We just picked two different players.
And we're just swapping whatever they think.
Exactly.
But we feel that both these teams have a need for a cornerback, and they're both going to look to fill them up in that first round.
Definitely.
All right, we're getting close to the end. We got 3 more picks. At number 30, we have the Packers coming in.
Who do you have for the Packers?
I have Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC going to the Packers. Rodgers going to get a speedy wide receiver that is going to be another target for him, especially getting wide open down the field with that speed.
And that's who I have for the Packers as well.
All right. So let's move on to number 31 then.
Oh, 49ers with this pick. And I have Trevon Diggs, the younger brother of Stephon Diggs, who's a cornerback from Alabama. He's going to be the eventual replacement for Richard Sherman for the 49ers.
I like that, but I feel like they could go another way and gain Ross Blacklock, the defensive tackle out of TCU, to fill the hole they had with the trade with DeForest Buckner.
Okay.
I do see Did's little brother coming in to replace Sherman, but I think it's going to be one of those two. It's going to be someone to eventually replace somebody else.
Okay.
All right. And that leads us to our final pick of the first round mock draft for the 2020 draft.
Last one for the Chiefs. I have Cesar Ruiz from Michigan, offensive lineman.
I had the same pick. I think what is going to keep the Chiefs succeeding is to give Mahomes the time that he needs to make the plays that he does.
And Cesar Ruiz, well, Austin Ryder is the center right now for the Chiefs, but he's on his last year, so this is basically his replacement, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see it. I honestly just think as long as the Chiefs get somebody that can solidify that line and keep it solid, I think the Chiefs are going to be the next New England Patriots.
I can see it. The next dynasty of the AFC.
Oh, why does the AFC always have the dynasty?
I don't know. I mean, wait, that's not true. I mean, come on. There was the 49ers and Cowboys dynasties over in the NFC for a while.
Yeah, but let's look at when I say dynasty, I mean the team that has won the Super Bowl. I think is like out of the last 10, I think it's like 8 or 9 have gone to the AFC team.
Yeah, but when you think of dynasties too, you got to think of like teams that are like they're able to come back again. And in those cases, you're right. I do think of the Patriots, or I think of the Steel Curtain, the Steelers back in the '70s and early '80s. But at the same time, too, the '80s was kind of dominated by the 49ers. In the '90s, early part of the '90s, a little bit of the 49ers and the Cowboys.
It's true.
So
And
hard.
we haven't really heard too much of the Cowboys legendary. They keep saying they're going to come back, and they've been saying that for, wow, a little over 20 years. Oh,
The last
gosh.
time was 1996 with Troy Aikman. Yeah, that's not.
And Duck Masters chiming in, talking about the steel curtain, how he loves that steel curtain.
Oh yeah, Terry Bradshaw. Woo.
Oh, man. Good players, good dynasties, and I'm loving that the NFL is kind of starting to slowly give old football games for everyone to watch at home during the quarantine going on.
It's the one thing keeping us sane. Anyway, to cap this off, Shane, we just want to talk about some of the other quarterbacks as far as where they're going to go. We've talked a little bit about Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert. The three that we have not talked about at all is Jordan Love from Utah State, Jacob Eason from Washington, and Jake Fromm from Georgia. Where do we think
Ah, it's a tough one, honestly. I feel like between the three that are left, I think Love is going to go first out of all of them. He's probably going to go somewhere in the second round, either early or mid.
a guess on a team?
You know, we talked about this a little bit earlier, where you were saying how the Lions were looking to potentially make a trade or make something happen to grab the QB, possibly trade away Stafford. I think if the Lions can hold off, they have an early enough pick in the second round, they might be able to grab Love.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
So that's the reason why I think the Lions are going to look for other holes that may need a bigger issue addressed, and then wait till the second round to grab somebody like Love.
Right. Is it interesting that I think that possibly later the Jaguars might take Jacob Eason?
It's interesting. I mean, I don't disagree with it just because I think the Jaguars may try to take a quarterback in either the first or second round. Do I want that to happen? No, because I feel like there are other things that would benefit them more. But I can definitely see them taking somebody like Jason Neeson.
Yeah. Again, not a guarantee, just something that the thought that I kind of had. As far as Fromm though, I feel like he's not going to really go maybe until the third round, and if he does, he's going to go somewhere where he's not really needed. Maybe the Rams, maybe the Chiefs.
It feels like he could eventually become a second or third string quarterback for a team that doesn't really need it, but is going to want to have it on standby.
Yeah. But yeah, that kind of covers the other quarterbacks that we were talking about. But we will find out all this for sure tomorrow, and then we can report on it next week.
Yes, it'll be weird having two in a row, but it's gonna be really good. Don't forget, everybody. Tomorrow, draft the first overall pick. When the Bengals come on the clock, is at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right after the national anthem.
Well, yep, it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, I was looking. I was like, when is the draft? When is the draft? It's like 6 p.m. I'm like, okay, so 4 p.m. here. I'm like, I think I can finish some stuff around then. And I learned it's like, oh, this is like the pre-draft stuff. I'm like, the first actual pit, the Bengals don't come on clock till 8:05. I'm like, well, that gave me an extra 2 hours to do whatever I needed to do. But anyways, it's going to be an interesting draft. I honestly want to make like bold predictions, but I don't want to necessarily. I feel like the boldest one might make is that there's gonna be like 4 or more trades within the first round.
I'm gonna say more like 2 to 3, 3 at the most.
Three is the more comfortable number. I want to go bold.
Yeah.
But I think that wraps it up for our pre-draft episode. There is no For the Fun tonight just because of everything going on. We're going to come back next week with what is gone on with the draft, kind of give a report, and try to do a For the Fun during that.
But we hope that everyone enjoyed what we had to put out there tonight as far as our predictions. We'll have to see who was the right one when we come up next week and really what that's going to mean for each team.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting. I think we can even McKay. I think we can even just mark on if we got that person right with the right team. I think that would be interesting as well.
A little bit of a competition there.
A little bit of a competition, but also to see just like how accurately did we predict each team grabbing this certain player.
Right. I'm down.
Like between the two of us, if we could get, I think like 28 out of 32 of the people going to the Zat team that we thought, I think that'd be impressive.
That'd be really impressive, especially between the two. If that was one person who got it right, wow.
I mean, it could happen.
Yep.
It
never
could
know.
happen.
Probably not, but you know.
Probably not. But anything, I think that's gonna wrap it up for tonight. McKay, is there anything that you want to add to anybody watching?
I think that's about it. We will see you after the draft.
All right, have a good draft day, everyone. Stay at home, stay safe, and have fun with the draft.
Enjoy. Wash your hands.